How you doing, guys?
Pretty good, Dan. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. So before we get into some more specific things about the news platform, which we're going to be talking about today, maybe one of you can give us a bit of an overview of what it does, just kind of the highlights of the news platform in general. So what does it do?
So News was created out of COVID, and when all operators needed to communicate with their staff and they couldn't do it. Most of the staff have either personal emails or their text message, or they had group chats that weren't up to date. So we thought there'd be a better platform, and we built News. From that, we worked with operators to build out what they need and what they don't need. So we built a full mobile intranet on the back end with social feed posting on the front end. Staff can like, they can comment, they can ask questions. The social feeds allowed for recognition, engagements, contributions, new hires, new residents being brought in. And then on the back end, the mobile app allowed for them to access everything and anything that they need, including links out to other platforms such as maintenance care. So it's become a very usable kind of housing app and platform for frontline staff and management to use.
Wow, that's so. Now, when the idea first came out, you said it was during COVID, and so what brought this idea out? Like what was the spark that created the initial concept?
Mainly the pain points that operators were experiencing. They couldn't communicate to their staff. Staff would show up to work only to be told to go back home. There'd be new outbreaks or new COVID numbers, and nobody would be updated or what's going on. And as we started looking into the industry, we realized there was a real need for this.
The problem that they faced, Dan, the biggest problem was the lack of ability to send real-time information. Phone lists, it takes you an hour to get through 55 people on a phone list. You just can't get a hold of everyone. You can try sending text messages to text message groups, but if you don't have somebody's contact in your phone, it's just a phone number that shows up. And you don't know who's responding, you don't know if people can actually see it. The difference between Apple and Android phones causes an issue with text messaging. WhatsApp groups were being used a lot, but again, it's an insecure platform to do that sort of thing, and you don't even know if people are going to see the notification that you're sending. So to David's point, if I don't know that we're in quarantine and I shouldn't show up to work, and I show up to work anyway, I'm going to be in a pretty bad mood and just be sent home. Or if I show up and there's a requirement for me to have PPE on me and I don't have it, I didn't know about it, I got to go home and get it, that's just a waste of time. So there was a massive spike in dissatisfaction as a direct result of not being able to communicate in a timely fashion. So to solve that problem, we all know how trained we are to see those little red dots on the app icons on our phone and just to tap it. That's also trained us to expect short form content to consume. It's not an email, it's not a video, it's a Twitter, it's a tweet, it's an Instagram post, it's something short form. And that's kind of what we built News to deliver, is a short form piece of content that shows up on a mobile phone that people can tap and get to in an instant, and it disseminates the information we need to everyone we need in seconds.
And so the individual employee would typically download this app from the App Store, whether Android or Apple, onto their phones. And it would be their personal phones in most cases, I would imagine, sometimes their company phones. And then but the interface to communicate to the staff is from a head office perspective. They would send messages down. Now, is there also the ability for the staff to communicate amongst each other in that process?
We didn't originally build that function because we didn't want the water cooler conversation to happen in a virtual environment. The potential for toxicity exists at that level, and what we built into News was the ability for people to comment and like on posts that come down from management. The opportunity for toxicity to come across in the comments does exist. To date, we haven't seen it happen. Because when you comment on anything in News, your name and your profile image are associated with that comment. Everyone in the organization can see it. So it's very unlikely that someone that's kind of a nasty Nelly is going to make a comment that everyone can see and everyone's going to know that, oh, that's the person that complains all the time. So
yeah, you're not anonymous in that process, right?
Exactly.
So exactly.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Dan, we have some operators that have a great culture and really trust their staff, and they've opened that up to staff communications. They have their own social feeds. We have a chat functionality that's going to roll out very soon, so they'll be able to do staff chat to chat if they decide to turn it on or not. but really it's for management to staff or management to their teams, and then going back up, it'll be staff to their manager or staff to HR or the ED. And depending on the size of the organization, it's really the individual executive directors or the champions of the platform are able to control and add all the information that they need for staff to access it.
About the personal phone question, we've heard this from a lot of clients and a lot of prospects. My staff, there's no way they're going to install a work app on their personal phone, and they don't, and that's totally fine. Because we knew this was going to happen, we built Niuz to not just exist as a phone-based app, it exists in any web browser. You can log into Niuz from a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, it doesn't matter. A lot of our customers have a BYOD policy, bring your own device, or no phones in sight policy, which kind of counteracts what it is we're trying to achieve. They do, however, have iPads and things at nursing stations. They have dedicated computers and workstations at nursing stations. Each one of those can be logged into Niuz so that anybody that accesses that terminal or that app, that tablet, can access Niuz and get everything they need that way. So we're working around the resistance to install an app on my personal phone. For frontline staff, if they're at home, you can train, or part of the onboarding process would be just log into Niuz in the morning before you leave just to get an update on what's going on. It's 30 seconds. They can log into Niuz from their laptop, check the news feed, see if there's anything that's impacting their day, and then they can get on with things.
You know, one of the things that we've known each other for a little while, and one of the things I know about you is that you know the industry very well, and so some of these obstacles that you're identifying, like the staff doesn't want to put something on their personal phone or whatever it is, that is sometimes quite unique to senior care in some ways. But it is a true obstacle, and you have to think about a solution. And you're in a startup environment right now, and startups always adapt and change. And so maybe talk about what is it like to run a startup, and what types of challenges do you have, and what's exciting about it? Like, the startup world is something that everybody talks about. The initial Facebook days and so on. Everybody lives in the same house, but these days it's taken on a new shape. But what is it like? Like, what is a startup for you?
So every startup's different. Every startup has its own culture and its kind of approach to things. We are 100% remote. It helps keep overhead costs down. From that, it makes a lot more efficiencies in terms of work and work hours and when people are able to complete the work. The biggest factor that we kind of put forward is constantly trying to get feedback from the clients that we have. So almost all of our new capabilities and functionalities come from client requests. We hear enough of them. They're all around the same theme or function, and that's what we start to build and roll out for the existing clients. And that's done nothing but validate the needs that are existing for other clients that that aren't part of the Niuz platform yet. So when we tell them about new functionalities and capabilities rolling out, they almost always kind of like, oh yeah, that'd be good, or that's a great feature, or oh, I wish we had that. And it's great to hear that feedback from them. And then outside of getting that great feedback and building those functionalities and constantly staying in touch with your clients, there's everything else that goes on with working in a startup. So you get curveballs thrown at you. You find out new requirements that you didn't know existed, and you're rushing to figure it out on a timeline. You're managing exposure and booths and travel, and there's none of that kind of team underneath you that supports all those administrative tasks. So you're managing all of that with your team and making sure everyone's aligned on the same page. And probably, as with every corporation, hyper communication is really the only way that you all stay informed on the same page.